a couple of days ago, I did a live stream talking about players who I think could get their jersey retired. And so today I'm going to talk about a few more players who I did not mention in that video. And we will discuss whether or not, they will get jersey retirements. And these are obviously, current players that I am talking about. So we'll talk about that. And also the NBA release, the Christmas Day matchups and the NBA opening day matchup. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So let's talk about some more jersey retirements. So I don't remember if I mentioned Jayson Tatum in that previous live stream, but I do believe Jayson Tatum will get his jersey retired by the Boston Celtics when he does retire. Again, I don't remember if I mentioned him or not, but I think it's a done deal that Jayson Tatum gets his jersey retired by the Celtics because obviously he won a championship there. So when you win a championship and, people can debate all day whether or not he was the number one or number two guy on that team. And I'm not even talking about the whole year, but like people will argue because obviously Jaylen Brown won finals MVP. But regardless, like he is one of the most important players on that team. I think a lot of people, kind of agree that Jayson Tatum is the number one guy, but either way, whether you think he's number one or number two, he is going to get his jersey retired, in my opinion, by the Boston Celtics when he does retire. So sticking with the Celtics, a player who is seemingly likely going to leave the Celtics, and the report is that he's going to the Golden State Warriors, they're just waiting on the Jonathan Kuminga situation, is Al Horford. I think Al Horford gets his jersey retired by the Boston Celtics. I really don't think it's even a question. Like, Al Horford is Celtics. Like, we all associate Al Horford with the Celtics, which is kind of funny. I talked about this once before. Al Horford, he played with the Hawks for a decent amount of time, and they were like the number one seed when Al Horford was on that team. Like, we're talking about prime Al Horford, right? And people don't really talk about that. They just really talk about the Boston Celtics days, which is fair enough. Like, he earned that. I'm just saying, like, it is kind of funny that, like, he did spend a chunk of his career with the Hawks, and nobody really talks about it or thinks about it. But Al Horford is definitely getting his jersey retired by the Celtics. He won a championship there as well on that same team as Jayson Tatum. There's no doubt in my mind that he gets his jersey retired. And I think, Boston Celtics fans would want his jersey retired anyway because we know, how important Al Horford has been to the Celtics franchise. And I know fans are probably like, slightly upset that the likelihood is he's leaving, but they also understand that like the reason he is leaving is because maybe he'll retire after this season. We don't know. But the Celtics are in no position to win a championship this year, unfortunately for him and for them. And so because of that, Al Horford, fair enough, in his last year, potentially he would like to have a chance to win maybe another ring. And so I don't think anybody's upset at Al Horford, but, that is, I think, a large reason why he's leaving. If Jayson Tatum doesn't get hurt, I don't know that he leaves. So, I mean, maybe, I guess it just also depends if they still, because Jayson Tatum getting hurt changed the whole thing about Drew Holiday and Porzingis. I know everybody says they would have traded those guys anyway because of the money problems, but I think I feel like if Jayson Tatum is healthy, things are slightly different. Maybe those trades still happen, or maybe only one of those players gets traded and they trade back for somebody who they believe will help them contend. Like, it really changes everything. So I feel like that also changed the trajectory of Al Horford, staying or leaving with the Celtics. So with that being said, though, jersey retirement for Al Horford, 100% in my mind. Like, I think he deserves it. He earned it. And then somebody said, hello, sports journalist. Hello, how are you? So the next player I want to talk about is, when I was reading Hello Sports Journalist, I lost my train of thought. Next player I want to talk about is Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam obviously was a large, a large reason why the Raptors won the championship that year. Obviously, Kawhi, was a huge part of that as well, but Pascal Siakam was their second best player. I mean, I guess you could argue between him and Fred VanVleet, but Pascal Siakam was, that guy for them. And he spent so long of, so much of his career there. And obviously he was kind of, what's the word? Like, he started in the G League of the Raptors and worked his way up to being an NBA starter and all-star, like literally from the ground up, the same way that Fred VanVleet did. So we'll talk about Fred VanVleet in a second too. But Pascal Siakam, I believe, gets his jersey retired by the Raptors for obvious reasons. Like, he was so important to that franchise. He won a championship there and was one of the catalysts of them winning a championship, like as their second best player or third best player, however you look at it. I know Kyle Lowry was really important too. Like, there were a lot of important players on that, championship roster. For Fred VanVleet, I feel like if Pascal Siakam is going to get his jersey retired, I would assume Fred VanVleet also does, because, kind of same concept. Like, although they have, different styles of play and all that stuff, but like, he was very important to them, winning a championship. He was very important to that franchise. He spent a lot of time there as well. And obviously, like I said, for Pascal Siakam, he also worked his way up from the G League. So I do feel like both of them will get their jersey retired, and probably Kyle Lowry too, honestly. Kyle Lowry, was so important to that Raptors franchise. And again, another important player who helped them win a championship, but also, he was there probably the longest. Well, actually, not even probably, definitely the longest, right? He was probably there longer than Pascal Siakam. I know he didn't start his career with the Raptors, but he was there for a good chunk of time because he was there with the DeRozan Raptors days as well. So I think Kyle Lowry spent longer there than Pascal Siakam. Maybe it's about the same, but I do think his jersey will also get retired by the Raptors. Does DeMar DeRozan get his jersey retired by the Raptors? That is an interesting concept. We know DeRozan did not want to leave the Raptors. He did not want to leave. And he and Kyle Lowry were, the 1-2 punch, so to speak, on those teams that just unfortunately kept running into LeBron. A lot of people believe if LeBron wasn't there, they maybe make one of those NBA finals at least. Now, that's how it goes, so, it is what it is. But, DeRozan was that guy for the Raptors as well. And because he literally didn't want to leave, and he's, put so much into that franchise and spent, a large chunk of time there as well, I could see DeRozan getting his jersey retired as well. I think it's situational because I know someone will say, well, he didn't, win a championship, go to the NBA Finals, have some of the playoff success as some other people who get their jersey retired, or there may be someone that I have mentioned that I said wouldn't get their jersey retired who may have, I don't even know, but I'm saying maybe similar playoff success to DeRozan. I don't think that's the case, but if I did, I feel like, again, some of it is situational, and I feel like DeRozan, his impact on that franchise, I feel like is enough to get his jersey retired. Is it a guarantee? No, but I feel like they will. I just feel like they will. Someone said G League to All-Star. G League is greater than All-Star, or G League to All-Star, you're saying? Yeah, the fact that Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet literally worked their way up from there, that's so amazing. To see where they are now, from where they started, that is hard work, dedication, all that stuff. So, yeah, DeRozan, in my opinion, I think he gets his jersey retired by the Raptors. I don't think he gets his jersey retired by the Kings, obviously, or the Bulls, or the Spurs. I just, he didn't spend long enough on those teams, and so that's that. Speaking of the Kings, I don't think Sabonis, well, maybe with the Kings, depending on how long he spends, the rest of his career. I don't know how long he's going to be with the Kings, so maybe the Kings in the future for Sabonis. For the Pacers, I don't think he'd get his jersey retired by the Pacers. I feel like he just didn't spend long enough there, and obviously he didn't ask to be traded. But I just feel like he didn't spend long enough combined with not enough playoff success for him to get his jersey retired, even though he was important to that team. I just don't think it was enough. No disrespect. But with the Kings, potentially in the future, it depends on how the rest of, his time there plays out. However long he stays there, if he has more playoff success, it just obviously depends on what's going to happen. I believe in the last video I said Klay Thompson, but I don't remember. But Klay Thompson will absolutely get his jersey retired by the Warriors. It's not even a question, right? Like, absolutely jersey retirement. An interesting one to think about is, will Jamal Murray get his jersey retired by the Denver Nuggets? Because Jamal Murray, like, okay, he's not Jokic. We understand that. And I already said Jokic is getting his jersey retired. Like, there's no question. But Jamal Murray, despite all the injuries and he has missed a lot of time, but, like, that championship year, like, he was so important to them winning that championship. Like, very, very important. And so, like, he's still there, and I would expect him to be there for a little while. He did sign an extension recently. So I could see Jamal Murray getting his jersey retired by the Denver Nuggets. I feel like the impact he had on them winning that championship, combined with, the time he has spent there, and again, because he is a champion on that team, I think Jamal Murray will get his jersey retired by the Denver Nuggets. I don't think Michael Porter Jr. will, because Michael Porter Jr. is obviously off that team. You know what? I think Aaron Gordon's going to get his jersey retired by the Denver Nuggets. I really do. I know he has not spent as long there, as Jamal Murray or Jokic. I think Aaron Gordon's going to get his jersey retired. Like, there's just something about, what Aaron Gordon is like to Denver? Kind of like what Al Horford is to the Celtics. Now, Al Horford, spent a much longer time with the Celtics, if, my timelines are correct. But what Al Horford is to the Celtics is kind of what Aaron Gordon is to Denver. Not necessarily their play style and stuff like that, but just like what they mean to the franchise. And them getting, Aaron Gordon was one of the key reasons they ended up winning a championship. Like, they needed him. They needed all the little things he does. So I think Aaron Gordon will get his jersey retired by Denver. This is why I say some of it's situational, because there are some players who maybe spent longer with a franchise who wouldn't, in my opinion, get their jersey retired. But I feel like for him, like, the situation and the impact he had, I feel like he's going to get his jersey retired, because that championship meant so much to, the city, the franchise, all that stuff. Someone said Horford. Yeah. Aaron Gordon, Al Horford, they are like, again, not the same player, but like the feeling that people have about Al Horford as Celtics fans is kind of the way I feel like people who are Denver fans feel about Aaron Gordon. Like, he is just, that guy for them. And every team, has one, well, not every team, but most teams, especially championship teams, have a guy like that. Just like, he may not be the best player on the team, but he's like a glue guy. He does a bunch of little things. He's always there when you need it. He's clutch, all those kind of things. Because, yeah, that's just what Aaron Gordon does. So I agree that his jersey will be retired, by Denver when he does retire, when he chooses to retire, whatever that is. And then just quickly, let's talk about the NBA opening day schedule and Christmas, because that was released. Opening day is Rockets at OKC, I believe, and then it is Warriors at Lakers. Obviously, the champions play on opening night, so that's no surprise. And playing the Houston Rockets also makes sense because they want to, play the two young and up-and-coming teams against each other. Also, the Rockets just got Kevin Durant, so it is, and Kevin Durant, it just worked out this way. This was obviously not planned by the NBA, but this is definitely amazing for them. Kevin Durant was on OKC for like a decade of his career. The first, portion of his career, he was on OKC. So it really worked out for the NBA in that sense, because they didn't know Kevin Durant was going to go to the Rockets. So that is an obvious, marketing matchup for multiple reasons. So that should be fun. And then Warriors at Lakers, Steph versus LeBron. Obviously, it's a team sport. Like, I always emphasize that. But, like, Steph versus LeBron is always going to be a must-see TV matchup. Always. Like, so that right there is all you need to know. And obviously, the Warriors have Jimmy now, and Draymond is still there. And so the team is still very good. And the Lakers obviously got Luka last year. So, like, there is a lot of big names, must-see TV, star power that the NBA wants to promote. So it makes sense for opening day, to have those teams play each other. And then for Christmas Day, I believe it's Cavs at Knicks, which makes sense. The Knicks are still good, so obviously they're going to play on Christmas. And the Cavs are obviously, they were the #1 seed last year, so that makes sense. That's kind of like the rivalry that the NBA is predicting for this year, because obviously the Celtics and the Pacers are pretty much out of the, championship race. So the NBA is, most likely expecting Cavs and Knicks to be 1 and 2. So that makes sense right there. I think it was Dallas at Golden State. That is because Klay Thompson is now on Dallas. So that's I don't even know if you call it a rivalry, because it's really not. But it's just Klay Thompson returning to Golden State, where he spent his whole career there and was part of the dynasty. So that is why that matchup is happening. And then the last matchup of the day was the Timberwolves versus Denver, which is, a rematch of, the playoff, matchups that keep happening. Denver versus, this year they didn't play each other, right? This year they didn't play each other because, they didn't play each other this year, but like last year, Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves knocked out Jokic, and Denver. So that's kind of like the, the rematch they're going for there. And the last game of the day is always a Western Conference team, because the West, the West is a time difference compared to the East. It's 3 hours behind or so. So the last game of the day always has to be West, because when it's 10 o'clock on the East, it's 7 o'clock on the West. Like, you can't have an Eastern Conference team playing at 10 p.m. It just doesn't work. So that's why that is that. And I'm trying to remember what the other matchup was, because why I can't remember, because there's always 5 games on Christmas, and I said 3 of them. I'm sure the Lakers are playing. I'm sure of it. So maybe it's Clippers-Lakers. I can't remember, but like that makes sense. And then you would think that maybe it's OKC playing on Christmas. Again, they're the champions. Like, they're playing on Christmas, right? But I can't remember. Like, they wouldn't be playing the Rockets again. Maybe it's Lakers at OKC? I honestly can't remember what the other 2 matchups are, so I don't want to, like, give the wrong matchups. Maybe it's Spurs at OKC, Wemby versus Shea. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I really don't remember. But I would really expect OKC and the Lakers to be on Christmas, so they got to be in there somewhere. That would mean only 1 Eastern Conference matchup on Christmas, though, which is kind of crazy that there would only be 1. I don't know if the Bucks were on there. I don't remember. I have to go back and look. I'm so sorry. Someone said Celtics. The Celtics are playing on Christmas? Oh. I didn't know the Celtics were playing on Christmas. I'll have to go and look at the schedule. Okay. So they're playing the Bucks, I guess, or maybe they're playing the Magic. I have to go look at the schedule. I don't know why, I just can't remember. But thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon.